LeBron James and the LA Lakers closing in on another title in the bubble. Plus, it's Texas OU weekend. We preview that matchup. And we got the top 10 plays from the past week. All this and more coming up next. This is the 1-0 Sports Show.
Texas finally 1-0, finally riding for the brand, although Tom Herman did say they were 1-0 10 times last season.
Feinbaum, I'll give him like half a point.
Dude, you like okay. Feinbaum way too much.
Yeah, all right. I'm like
you're
I'm the Feinbaum of this show.
By the way, that looks Ohio State. Is that an omen? Give me that Longhorn hat.
Oh man!
Hook him, baby.
All right, he's pulling the Corso.
Hello and welcome into the 1-0 Sports Show. Thanks for joining us on your Friday morning. I'm joined by Emmy Basnett and Daniel Shee. I'm your host, Thomas Fitch. We got a great show for you coming up. We got all sorts of predictions. We have top plays from the week, a whole new segment. So you're going to want to stick around. But first, we're going to start off with what we always start off with. That is who's hot and who's not. And Daniel, we're going to have you take it away. Who is hot this Friday morning?
Well, if you've been following me on Twitter since probably May, you probably know where I'm going with this. It's the Chinese Professional Baseball League. And, by the way, it's in Taiwan. The first league to start professional baseball in the world in the year of 2020. And now we're down to home stretch of the entire season. We have about 8 games left per team left on the season, and the top 3 teams are separated by just 1.5 games. The top 2 teams are tied, and it is absolutely madness here in the CPPL world. Every game counts. That's the new hashtag for the CPPL on Twitter, and literally every game can determine what the playoffs look like. You got the CTPC brothers who's looking to clinch this first and second half season, and the Fubon Guardians, the Uni Lions right now are again tied at the top, and both of them are looking to join the CTPC brothers in the Taiwan series.
It sounds like it's really anybody's game.
Yeah, it is
over there in the CPBL. Emmy, who's hot for you?
I'm going to have to say the Lakers. I know that's the easy thing to say right now. But goodness, that game was amazing. Anthony Davis was definitely the star of that game. Their defense looks incredible. And I'm sorry, but the Heat does not have the length and the speed that this Lakers defense does, or their offense. I'm sorry, but that hero Snarl did not age well in this game. He went down. LeBron was a beast in this game. I don't think the Heat really expected to be outscored on the 3-point line. I think that was the main thing. The Heat was not prepared for that, and the Lakers time and time again was hitting them with that. So yeah, I know it's an obvious one with a third win under their belt, but the Lakers were definitely hot this week.
And Emmy, do you think there's any chance that down 3-1 the Heat can come back?
I mean, they probably could win the game, but they won't win the whole thing. I think they just don't have the speed and the size and the length that this team does, and I wish they could compete with them, but it's the defense. I would have to say that the Heat offense is not compared to the Lakers defense, and I just don't think they're ready.
Yeah, the Lakers certainly have looked like the better team, although I know Daniel, you're there with me. We're not big LeBron guys. I know we would love to see LeBron blow that 3-1 lead. We'll be talking about LeBron in a second, but Daniel, who's not hot right now?
Well, you know, for a lot of the international CPPL fans, you might be wondering, why did I not bring up the Rakuten Monkeys earlier in my Who's Hot segment? And and the reason why is they blew a 16-7 start to the season. They had a 7-game lead coming into July at one point in the CPPL first half of the season, and they blew that lead to the CTPC brothers. And now, actually, for the Rakuten Monkeys, they went 5-13 in their last 3 weeks, and now they are not either in the full year standings nor in the second half standings. They're literally the only team in the CPPL that basically does not control their destiny. Again, that's after having a 7-game lead in the entire league at one point. And that is just, as a Rakuten Monkeys fan, as a CPPL fan, that is just, it's just difficult to witness.
Crazy. That, yes. you can tell that Emmy and I are big
No idea.
Rakuten, is that how you say it? Rakuten?
Yeah.
Rakuten Monkey
I
fans,
should
yeah.
we should have done something before the show to get y'all caught up.
That would have
Emmy,
helped.
who's not for you, Emmy?
I have to say, unfortunately, since my whole family's from San Francisco, that the 49ers are not hot this week. Pretty boy Garoppolo is out, which means the Niners put in Mullins, who proved to be lackluster at best with throwing 2 picks. He had many sacks. It was terrible. Honestly, so terrible that they put in the 3rd string quarterback. He was able to get some yards back for the Niners, but it wasn't enough. It just wasn't enough. See that fumble right there? That one hurt as a fan. Now I see why the Eagles went for that 2-point conversion in the first quarter. Me and my dad were kind of watching that, questioning that play, but looks like it paid off in the end. The Niners were not able to catch up. They're going to have to, going forward, really freshen up these quarterbacks, because the 3rd string against these teams is not going to hold up. We miss Garoppolo, but luckily George Kittle is pulling his own weight, and he's a superstar as always. But yeah, they were just not hot this week.
Yeah, they were missing Jimmy Garoppolo. Maybe they would have been hot there with Pretty Boy Jimmy behind center. But the Eagles, as you mentioned, they picked up their first win of the season at 1-2-1. This is a perfect transition for us. 1-2-1. They lead the NFC East. 1-2-1. You heard that right. That's going to take us right into Embrace Debate. And our first topic of Embrace Debate is, can anyone win the NFC East, currently led by the 1-2-1 Philadelphia Eagles? Emmy, we'll start with you.
Yeah, that stat is actually, it's true. Thank you for reiterating that. The NFC East is literally 3, not 13, 3-12-1. I guess right now, if one team can take advantage of it, it is the Eagles. Sorry to all the Cowboys fans out there. The Cowboys defense just needs to get it together. I mean, the Cowboys have talent on offense, and they are trying their hardest, but they just cannot get it together. The NFC East is a mess. I think the Eagles are the best chance at winning this division. Carson Wentz, I'm not on the Carson Wentz train yet. I mean, after that game against the Niners, a lot of people gave him a ton of hype. I think he did good. I think he did well. Is he the caliber that people are saying he is? I don't think I'm sold on that one yet. Of course, somebody has to win this division, but I think it's just a crapshoot. It's really unfortunate. But yeah, sure, the Eagles, maybe the Cowboys if they can get their defense together. But I don't know. It's really sad.
Daniel, what about you? Who do you see coming out on top of the crazy division?
I only got 2 words for you, and that is, and we're going to bring this up later. I got 2 words for you: the Houston Astros. Well, I guess 5 words: the Houston Astros of the NFL, or the NFL,
there we go.
NFC East. Yes, that is not 2 words. That's probably like 7 words, and yeah. But anyways, you don't need to peak in the early in the season when the division leader is, again, 1-2-1. You're basically telling yourself you got time to figure out, just win your division games. Don't need to care about the other division games. Maybe you can even let those go, because you could probably win this division with a 7-9 record. Looks like that right now. And so just make sure that you're beating against all those divisional rivals. And based on how bad everybody is in that division, maybe a ball that bounces their way in a key game, and then they get all the momentum. And football sometimes is a momentum game, and you got enough momentum carried into the playoffs, you just might beat somebody in the playoffs. Who knows?
Yeah, Daniel, I wish I had my cowboy hat on me, because I got 4 words for you to quote the famed Stephen A. Smith. How about them Cowboys? Y'all know whenever the Cowboys lose, I love to bring it up. But it's one of those years where it just feels beyond crazy what has happened. The fact that every week is it's almost all the teams losing. 3 wins combined, 4 teams through 4 weeks. It's absolute madness. Speaking of absolute madness, LeBron James, love him, hate him, whatever.
What a segue.
After game 3, watch this. With 12 seconds left in the game, Lakers going to lose. LeBron walks off the court. So I got to ask y'all, is this bad sportsmanship? Is LeBron James just a sore loser? Daniel, we'll start with you.
First of all, he lost that game, so he's a loser. That's number one. Number two, I don't understand. I'm trying. Ever since I saw that clip, I've been trying to figure out how do LeBron defenders trying to defend that. And to be fair, I haven't read or watched a lot of what people said about LeBron leaving the game before the game ends. But that's like, well, basketball is a little bit different. Can you imagine leaving the game, like if you're like a star, like Derek Jeter or Mike Trout, leaving the game in the bottom of the 9th inning with 2 outs and you're down by, like, you don't do that. It is different in the NBA because they're burning time anyway. But at the very least, after the game, you should go talk to the other team, right? Are they allowed to do that now? And just to at least congratulate them on the win, go and then talk to the coach and stuff like that. Eric Spoelstra is supposedly they're close or something, right? They know each other. Why? I just don't understand why you don't at least give them the courtesy of congratulating them on one win. That might be the only win they throughout the NBA Finals. I don't understand why, as a bigger man, as the best player in the NBA, to give them the courtesy. I don't know. I don't understand.
Yeah, the greatest irony was afterwards, Isaiah Thomas, former Detroit Pistons Isaiah Thomas, that is, came and defended LeBron for what he did. But if you watch The Last Dance, you'll remember that Isaiah Thomas was on the Detroit Pistons team that famously refused to shake the Chicago Bulls' hands when they lost in the Eastern Conference Finals. So not necessarily the guy you want defending him. Emmy, what do you think about this?
I guess I'm a LeBron defender on this one.
No.
I know. You know what? He's done this before. It's just this was on a bigger stage. It's not like this is the first time that he's done this. I don't know if that defends it or justifies it, but it definitely isn't like the first time that he's acted this way. I think he's just a fierce competitor. He's been playing in the NBA for 17 years now or something crazy like that, and he hates to lose. And I think that was less of being a sore loser, more just being a fierce competitor who lost and was upset about it. I don't know if he's a sore loser. I mean, he has had his moments where he was pissed off about MVP and just said, I'm pissed off. But I think maybe he's just what you see is what you get with LeBron. And I don't know. I think it was poor sportsmanship in that moment. Is he a sore loser? That may be a little bit too far. But
well,
I guess that's just my take.
We'll see what happens if he blows the 3-1 lead, how good of a loser he is. But
right,
as we've seen, probably won't happen. The Lakers looking pretty good right now. Let's look at the MLB playoffs, though, real quick. We'll go rapid fire. We have 2 topics to debate right here. First of all, Astros struggled during the 60-game regular season, but they just defeated the Athletics yesterday, so they're on to the next round. They've looked pretty good through these first 2 rounds. Emmy, we'll start with you. Are they peaking at the right time?
I mean, yeah. I feel like nobody likes the Astros at this point, except people from Houston. So, sadly, I do think they're doing really well. They did have that one loss to the Athletics earlier. But, maybe they're peaking at the right time. It's not impossible for them to lose. Do I think they're going to continue to win? Yes, I do. I wouldn't count on them not losing, but it's anybody's game. But lots of baseball to be played. I guess we'll see. I'll let Daniel take this because I can tell that he's excited about it.
Go ahead, Daniel.
Yeah, I'm going on a little rant here. First of all, props to the Astros. Congratulations to advancing the ALCS. As much as I hate saying that, they at the end of the day they made the playoffs. They went 5-1 in the last 6 playoff games. But this is the exact reason why a 16-game playoff in the MLB sucks. a team below 500 should not be able to face. Should not be able to play in the playoffs. And I said that. I said I hate the NBA playoffs before, and I'll say it again. 16-team playoff in any sport is ridiculous. That's number one. Number two, how can you be below 500 and play two teams? Granted, both teams have been historically bad in the playoffs. You just need a lucky draw to somehow end up being 8 wins away from winning the World Series after losing your ace in the offseason. Again, props to the Astros. They've done it perfectly. They've handled the system perfectly. But hey, as a fan, you hate seeing an under 500 team being able to be this close to the World Series.
Yeah, and especially when it's the Astros after last season and all the cheating controversy, it is a little frustrating. So I get where you're coming from, Daniel. Last topic, though, real quick. The Dodgers have been the best team from game one to right now. They've been the best team. They've looked pretty unstoppable. Daniel, we'll start with you. Is there any way to stop the Dodgers? And I asked you that specifically because my Braves are about to play them.
Yeah, I'm seeing that wrap-up sign. I'm gonna give you one answer. Clinton Kershaw's gonna stop this Dodgers.
Well, he always does. You think he's gonna do it again?
I think so. I am just they're an accident waiting to happen in the playoffs.
Okay. I certainly hope so. Amy, what do you think?
I don't know. Cody Bellinger is incredible. We saw that grab that stole the homer. I think that was a sign of hope for the Dodgers for the rest of them. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe the Rays or the Padres, but you never know. It all depends. But I wouldn't be surprised if they went 13-1.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Again, hope the Braves can do something. It has been a wild MLB playoffs. Will continue to be a wild MLB playoffs. And we continue to have a wild show coming up next. Sticking around after the break, we have OU Daily sports writer Chandler Engelbrecht on to talk about the Red River rivalry. Plus, as I mentioned, questions from the crowd, top 10 plays, weekend predictions, all that and more coming up next. Stick around.
Welcome back into the 1-0 Sports Show. Now joining us, OU Daily senior sports writer Chandler Engelbrecht. Chandler, thanks so much for joining the show.
Thanks for having me on, man. Really happy to be here.
All right, so first question, got to address this. What's been going on with OU this year?
Well, how much time do you have? Because we could literally sit here all day and go through the problems that this team has. I would chalk this rough start really for them up to the fact they're coming out of one of the most confusing off seasons to date. I mean, no spring ball, limited summer practice. Once you have all that happening, along with having a lot of leadership leave and Kenneth Murray, CeeDee Lamb, you're going to have a team that's very young and it's going to have to go through a lot of growing pains. And I think that's been on display in the first 3 games of the season for them.
Yeah, it certainly has. We'll talk about that a little bit more. But let's just say, like, at the start of the year, was this kind of being imagined as a rebuilding year? Obviously, even though Spencer Rattler is super talented coming in with no experience. So what was kind of the thought process in Norman before the season even started?
Well, for OU fans, it's always the sky's the limit. You know, their national championship and Big 12 championships are expected. And I don't think this past offseason was any different than that. Maybe it was different because there was more expectations, but really, this team was not expected to come in and be 1-2 by literally anybody, fans or experts alike. So really, I would say this past offseason was the subject to a lot of hype, mostly because of Spencer Rattler. And we'll get into Spencer Rattler in a minute, obviously, but I think that Rattler is still a very good quarterback. And, these first 3 games have really been a lot for him to learn, and that's been on display. But this is a rebuilding year that was really in disguise.
Yeah, and the 1-2 record, not just, it's not like a normal season where you would have played a lot of non-conference teams. So 2 losses in conference to Kansas State and Iowa State. In your opinion, which one of those was the worst loss?
I mean, in terms of felt worse for OU fans, they'll easily say both. I personally, if I was looking at it from an OU fan perspective, I would say the Iowa State loss definitely hurt him more because that was the kind of knockout punch to their playoff hopes. I mean, I don't think a 2-loss team can make the playoff maybe this year, considering how crazy it is, but I really can't see a 2-loss team entering it. The Kansas State loss was a typical out of nowhere OU loss. So even though they did walk away from Owen Field that day, losing their first conference game of the season, there was still that sense of, oh, hey, maybe OU can still go back in and go undefeated and win the Big 12 and get back into the playoff. So I don't think Norman was as sad after that loss as they were last week. So Iowa State is my answer there.
Yeah, you brought up Spencer Rattler earlier, and despite the 1-2 start, Rattler has looked good in his first season as starting quarterback from the get-go. So because the start has been so good, looking at the future, what are the expectations going to be for Rattler?
Through these first 3 games, I mean, there's nothing too evident that he needs to improve greatly. I mean, he's a really young quarterback. He's was projected to be a Heisman finalist by a lot of fans this year, and that's a very high expectation and not an expectation that a lot of redshirt freshmen can fit. So I would say going forward, he just needs to get more comfortable in this offense that Lincoln Riley has put together. I still think he can become that quarterback. If you look at his stats, I mean, through 3 games, he has nearly 1,000 yards passing and 10 touchdowns. So for a freshman to have those after just 3 games under his belt, he's not the problem this OU team has when it comes to winning games. And so I think going forward, the quarterback position is not a position they need to worry about.
Yeah, and, to be truthful, the quarterback position has never been a position to worry about when Lincoln Riley's been at the helm. Let's look at the Big 12 as a whole. Mm-hmm. It is already pandemonium. It's chaos.
Absolutely.
Oklahoma State, the lone undefeated team. So how many losses do you think that the Big 12 champion will have at the end of the season?
I really think that the Big 12 champion will probably have 1 or 2. I think the conference's best 2 shots in making the playoff does fall on the shoulders of Texas and Oklahoma State. But I just don't know, considering how crazy this year is, if either of those teams can weather the storm of the rest of the season perfectly. I personally would look to Texas to really be the Big 12's favorite child going forward, that hopefully they can win out and just have the 1 loss on the record to get in. But again, the TCU game was a shocker. Both Oklahoma's losses have been shockers, and I honestly have no idea. But I would bet a 2-loss Big 12 champion for the year.
Yeah, we'll certainly see it. It's going to be chaos. Honestly, as much as it's been crazy to watch, it's been a lot of fun to watch, and it'll certainly be fun coming down to
Absolutely.
the finish line. Let's move to the Red River rivalry game now.
Right.
On the OU side of the ball, who are some players to watch for on Saturday?
If you want to look at new guys, I would definitely take a look at OU's newest wide receiver in Marvin Mims. This guy's been a playmaker, not to the same level as CeeDee Lamb was a year ago for him, obviously, but I really think through these first 3 games, he shows a lot of promise. He's a speedster guy, really has a knack to make that big play. He was kind of the go-to receiver against Kansas State for him. So I would expect him to kind of show up and want to show out against the Texas team that, is really looking for a must win. On the other side of the ball for OU, I'd look for Perion Winfrey to kind of have a bigger game. The OU defensive line has performed well, not good enough for them to win either of the conference games, but it hasn't been the problem for that defense. I would look for Perion Winfrey kind of to put together a good performance on Saturday. I don't think they get close to the same amount of sacks they got last year in this game, but I still would look for that position group to be pretty solid on Saturday.
Yeah, and there's certainly a lot of matchups to watch for in this game, but what is one that you think could make or break this game?
Going back to what I said earlier about how many problems this OU team has, their biggest problem is their O-line. Their O-line has been a shocker to OU fans and experts alike. I mean, this is a group that had so much riding on it. Not nearly as hype as Spencer Rattler had coming into the year, but this O-line was expected to be much, much better than it is. So I would say the position matchup to watch this Saturday is in the trenches between this OU offensive line and the Texas D-line. I haven't seen too much of the Texas D-line this year. Obviously, I've been a little bit preoccupied, but from paper, they don't look too bad. I think if they can force a few sacks, not let the OU run game get going, which they've struggled to do all year, I really think this game could go the Longhorns' way.
Yeah, certainly the Battle of the Trenches, probably the most important. But the matchup everybody's going to be watching is Ellinger versus Spencer Rattler. Right. But of those 2, which quarterback do you think will have the better game?
I'm gonna get a lot of flank for this from the Norman crowd, but I'm still gonna go for Sam Ehlinger on this one. I think the experience he brings in this game is just too much for him not to have a good game. Radler, like I said earlier, is talented and has all the tools to be a great quarterback in Lincoln Riley's system. But Ehlinger's experience mixed with his talent at that position is scary for OU's defense. He's a guy that doesn't like to go down easily, and this is an OU team that doesn't like to tackle too much. So I would look for Radler to have a pretty good game. I'm sorry. I would look for Ehlinger to have the better game than Radler, but I still expect both to have pretty solid numbers on the day.
Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, Oklahoma, in their struggles, a lot of it has been defensive, and some could argue that has been a lot of Texas's struggles in the TCU loss and even in the narrow win against Tech. But do you think this game's going to come down to which defense is able to get more stops or which offense is more productive?
I mean, this is a question that could go either way. It could be a typical Red River shootout in a fashion that it's a 50 to 40 point game, but I'm going to go with the defense. I still think both offenses are really good, and it's going to come down to which defense wants it more. Both teams are not great tackling teams, and both teams don't slow other offenses down. So it's going to be a make or break, and it's just going to be a contest of who breaks first.
Mm-hmm. And obviously OU 1-2, whereas Texas is 2-1. But the Horns, like I mentioned, didn't look great against Tech, and it's a rivalry game nonetheless. But who do you think, which team needs this win more?
I think that one's obvious answer. It's Texas. Texas still has its playoff hopes alive. It still has a really good shot to win out and still be highly ranked towards the end of the year. I think a lot more than just playoff hopes and Big 12 title aspirations are on the table here for Texas. I mean, it's going to be pretty crazy if Herman can't walk out of Dallas with a win again. I don't know what the message board's going to look like there, but I would say Texas needs this one way more than OU does, as most fans would already call this season a rebuilding year for OU.
So there won't be too much freak out in Norman compared to Austin if there's a loss for the Sooners.
Right. That's my opinion, yes.
That makes sense. Herman definitely would be on the hot seat if he would, the loss would take him 3-4 in Red River rivalry matchups.
Right.
But looking at this game, 2.5 point spread for Oklahoma, even though Texas the higher ranked team. But let's get a final score prediction. Who wins the game? And let's get an actual score.
Well, from watching OU games for the last few years, I would never bet on an OU game to save my life. And this game's no different. I have no idea, but right now I'm leaning that 2.5 point spread is really just a pick'em game, and I can't imagine this game's won by just a point. So I would take Texas in this one. Again, it's a must-win for them. They need to come out of Dallas with a win to really salvage their season and really to save Tom Herman's legacy at Texas. So I would say 38-28. Texas pulls out a tough one that gets even closer down the stretch.
Mm-hmm. And I got one more bonus question.
Okay.
So last year there was a lot of rumors of Lincoln Riley going to the Cowboys. How much panic was there in Norman that might actually happen?
I mean, when you have a head coach who's just in his 30s and he's gone to several playoffs in a row, there was a lot of talk. However, I don't know if Lincoln Riley is that coach that wants to leave a program that's in such a good spot right now. I would say talk maybe gets a little bigger, maybe gets a little louder at the end of the season if OU does end up just being like a 5-6 win team. But the talk over the offseason was crazy. But again, I wasn't expecting Lincoln Riley to leave, and that's what happened. He stayed put. I can imagine he stays put for a while longer too. Imagine the Sooners keep on winning.
Yeah, I know. Down in Austin, we were kind of hoping that the Cowboys would take him away from y'all, but he's done a fantastic job there in Norman. Chandler, just thanks so much for joining us. I don't like to say anything good about OU, but OU Daily really does great work. We had George Stoya on last year. Glad to have you join the ranks of him. So
I'm
thanks
really
so
happy
much
to
for
be
joining
here.
us.
You guys put good work together too, so I'm really happy to help out in whatever way I can.
Hello, welcome into the 1-0 Sports Locker Room. And we are here for the part that we know you all tuned in for because you sent us your questions. We're going to field them. That's right. It's questions from the crowd. Our first question comes from Kramer. S. Kramer writes, he says, with the Pac-12 officially going with a 6-game conference schedule in November, how do you think that affects the overall CFP picture? Emmy, we'll start with you.
I don't really think it impacts the overall picture.
Yes.
The Pac-12 hasn't really had a team in the playoffs in 5 years. I don't know if it affects the overall picture, unfortunately, but I don't think it'll shake things up too much.
Daniel, what about you? You don't think a team like Oregon or USC could get in there?
Well, first of all, shout out to my boy Sean Kramer. He's a huge Washington Huskies fan, and also a huge Football Guardians fan. But also, unless I think if the Big 12 and the Big 10 champion goes 2 losses and you have a 6-0 USC, it has to be a USC team. Unless the USC goes 6-0 and both the Big 10 and the Big 12 champions are 2 losses and are not Ohio State or Oklahoma or Texas, I think they will have a team in the college football playoffs. Other than that, the Big 10 champion can go 7-1, and if it's Ohio State or Michigan, they're in. If Texas goes into the Big 12 championship with 1 loss, they win that one. And barring any SEC, crazy ACC, SEC craziness, I think they'll go in even over a 6-0 any Pac-12 champion. So I don't think the Pac-12 playing conference games matters in the grand scheme of things.
I would say right now, as it looks, I would agree. I think it would be hard for a Pac-12 team to get in. But the SEC schedule, there's a lot of top-ranked teams that are going to have to all play each other. And if we see some of the chaos in that conference that we've seen in the Big 12 already, and then you get a Pac-12 team like a USC or Oregon going undefeated, who knows? I'm not saying they're going to be in, but all I'm saying is who knows? We'll have to watch for that. Our next question comes from John Kelly, JK_astronomy. He says, what is the best meeting between the Longhorns and Sooners in their 115-game history? Daniel, we're going to start with you. You're going to take it back to 1930?
Well, in the 115 games that had played, I only witnessed 3 of them, and only 1 of them did the Texas win. So I'm going to go with that one. Cameron Dicker, the 45-yard kick with 5 seconds, 8 seconds, 10 seconds left. The last drive of that game from Texas was magical. Sam Ehlinger and Tom Herman managed the clock. Imagine that in 2020, and even with the tie, even getting tied up at after leading by 21 points, then being able to manage the clock and leave. Even though they left a little bit of time, but just enough time for Kyler Murray to not score in the last few seconds of that game, I thought that was one of the best moments in the last decade, I think, for Texas.
Yeah, that was a big win. Emmy, what do you think?
Yeah, I wish I went with 100 years ago because I did the same one as Daniel. That game is just so special, I think, for every UT student or Longhorn fan or just people who also hate OU. It was just a massive win. Everyone thought OU had it in the bag. And then Texas came and won 48-45. That is now an iconic ending score. It will go down in the history of the Red River rivalry. I can never say it correctly, but you know what I mean? It's really impossible. But I think that's such a memorable game. They'll use all those clips from that game. Cameron Dicker, he became kind of iconic after that. So I don't know. It established the confidence for our team. It made us feel like we were better than OU for a little bit. And I think it just did a lot for our pride in the state of Texas.
For a little bit, you mean all time, right?
All time. It is Friday morning and OU still sucks. It is OU hate week. Am I right?
That is 100% right. Emmy, I'm glad you reminded us. I almost forgot about that, but that is very true. OU always sucks. And honestly, I'm going to have to agree with y'all on that one. It's tough to beat the Dicker year. As much as I want to pull out 1975, you can't beat Dicker the kicker. You can't beat it. All right, our next question comes from James G. Boswell 17. If you were a fan of the good old Thomas Fitch Sports Show, you might remember him, recurring guest. He says this directly to you, Daniel. He says, how does Honda's departure from F1 affect Red Bull, and where do they go for 2022? So, Daniel, we'll start with you.
Well, first of all, R.I.P. the Thomas Fitch show. It's really a shame that doesn't exist anymore. But yeah, I think that for Red Bull, it is a huge factor going into 2022, knowing that the entire, you have to change your entire car based on the rule changes, and if you have a undeciding factor, a factor that you can't control on the engine going into 2022, that is a huge deal, I think, for Red Bull. I don't think they'll compete from 2022 to 2025 just based on this engine change. And I think for them, they have to go to, well, looks like right now the only 3 engine suppliers are Mercedes, Ferrari, and Renault. I think Renault is their only choice for Red Bull. However, you know how bad they ended up, how bad their breakup was, and also when Red Bull was really good back in the 2000s, they were the only supply, they were the only customer for the Renault engine when they dominated the Formula One. Now Renault have their own team, so right now Red Bull is basically borrowing engine from Renault, and they're not getting those customized engine that they need to compete against the likes of Mercedes or Ferrari. So it's gonna be I think their dreams of dominating and winning consistently in F1 have taken a huge blow, I think, for at least the next 5 years.
Emmy, you got any takes on F1?
Unfortunately, no. I mean, he said everything I was going to say, so I think
Me too. Took the words right out of my mouth.
So yeah.
Yeah, I'm an expert at taking words out of people's mouths.
Yeah.
Well, that's perfect, because this next question, Daniel, I think I think you're going to take the words out of our mouths again. The question is how the brothers, this is CPBL, how the brothers should play the rest of the second half from Brother Stan. Again, Daniel, take it away.
Yeah. By the way, shout out to Brother Stan, one of the key contributors to CPBL Twitter. Yeah, the CTPC brothers should really go for it. If they win the second half, they're 1.5 games back from the top right now. If they win the second half, they get an automatic 1-0 advantage in the Taiwan series, and they will play a team that has to go through at least a best-of-5 game series before they head into the Taiwan series. And also, they still keep the 4-game home games, 4-game home field advantage in the Taiwan series as well. So that's a huge, that's a huge incentive to try to go win the second half. I would have told you otherwise if they're far behind from winning it, but right now they're only 1.5 games apart. The Lions and the Guardians, they still have to battle it out, and the brothers the brothers have done just enough to just staying in that fight and kind of peeking at it from the outside. And now they really have a chance to really go for it. And if they do, I think they will finally bring a championship back to Taichung for the first time since 2010. Emmy, I know you have a lot to talk about. I know you have a lot prepared for this, so I'm excited to hear what you say.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna let Thomas take us to the next question, because I don't want to go over time with my answer, but thank you.
Yeah, we're short on time, Daniel. Otherwise, we would love to also help out.
Yes.
But I agree. Took the words right out of my mouth.
Yes. Once again.
Our next question comes from Jen Taiwan R, who says, who will win the World Series, the Major League Baseball American World Series, and why? Emmy, we'll start with you.
A question I can answer. Okay. I'm going to be, once again, I'm going to go for the easy answer and just say the Dodgers. But it really is anyone's game. I would maybe like to see the Padres, but last year the Dodgers blew it to the Nationals, and they had more than double their run differential, and still lost to them. So who knows? And they lost before to the Red Sox. So it really is. We'll see it play out. You can't really predict based on how they always perform, because anyone can win. I keep saying that, but it's just so true. I would like to see an upset. I think that's always exciting, but I guess I'll say right now, to play it safe, the Dodgers.
Daniel, what do you think? Any chance my Braves can hoist that trophy?
I honestly think the Astros will win it because they don't have to leave the state of Texas in the championship and the World Series. And by the way, shout out to RJ. Thanks for the question. Yeah, the Astros are basically the only team that have some sort of a home field advantage because they will be allowing fans in the championship and the World Series. And so if you're a Houston fan, you just have to drive 3 hours up or 4 hours up to Dallas, and the Astros will automatically be the most popular team.
Well, we'll certainly see what happens there. And our next question comes from Steve Helwick, S_Helwick. I think Steve might be the only person who's gotten a question in every week. So shout out to you, Steve. His first question, who is your finals MVP? And also, which all-star has been most pivotal in the NBA finals this year? Daniel, we'll start with you on this first question.
Finals MVP, I think it goes to LeBron because the media is so biased for LeBron. I'm kidding. I don't think you give it to anybody but LeBron. But LeBron James, barring like a 50-game performance by Anthony Davis in Game 5 or the clinching game, I think you give it to LeBron James. Which non-All-Star has been most pivotal in the NBA Finals? I wish I'm following the league enough or remember the NBA All-Star game back in February before COVID-19 to tell you who are and who are not All-Stars on both rosters. So I'm gonna leave that question up to you guys.
Plead COVID on that one. That's fair. Amy, what do you think?
I honestly think it could be Anthony Davis. I think maybe LeBron has a slight advantage or a slight edge, but I mean, you saw Anthony Davis's performance in that last game. Anthony Davis, I don't know, he's just performed super well and super consistently. I would like to see him get it. I mean, I know LeBron is the GOAT, in my opinion, maybe not to you guys, but I think Anthony Davis deserves this one, especially after that last game.
Yeah.
Does GOAT mean second best of all time now?
Redefining the term. Well, I mean, Anthony Davis, certainly that size and presence he's been able to have has been huge for the Lakers against the Heat. Steve's next question, let's look at the group of 5 teams. He says BYU has obliterated everything in its path, still have trips to Houston and Boise State, who are going to be tough tests. So do the Cougars have a reasonable shot at making the college football playoff this year? Amy, we'll start with you.
I don't know. Maybe. That's a tough question. I mean, I certainly think it would be interesting if they could do it, but I don't know. I think we're looking at the caliber of the teams that do make the CFP, and we saw that with UCF. Like everyone thought they could do it, but in the end, in the bowl games, they didn't hold up to the Power 5 teams, and so I don't know. BYU maybe. I would like to say maybe. I always root for kind of the underdog or the unexpected. But I mean, you got to look at the teams they're playing. You got to look at who they're going up against. And CFP is usually dominated by the top of the top with outstanding defenses. So I guess I just have to continue to watch them play and see who they perform well against.
Yeah, it's certainly tough now for those group of 5 teams. Now that the Pac-12 is back, the Big Ten is back, it just narrows the spots that might have been more open. Daniel, you think the Cougars have any shot at the playoffs?
No, and if you tune into Rants with Danny Shee, the weekly podcast that I make, you probably and I mean it's been a while since I rant about the CFP structure, but you will know my take on the ridiculousness of college football playoffs. But right now, yeah, you're right. A 5-1 Pac-12 team might have a higher chance to make the college football playoffs than BYU. I'm sorry, that's a national champion Central Florida didn't even get to play in the college football playoffs. So I don't think any big group of 5 team will make the college football playoff until they expand it. I'm not talking about change to the structure. I mean, they would have to expand the structure and guarantee a spot for the group of 5 team in order for one to really make it there, in my opinion.
So you think 8-team playoff is the way to go for those group of 5 teams to get in?
They have to go 8 teams, and in my optimal scenario is they guarantee a spot for all 5 Power 5 champions, regular season champions, one group of 5 champion, and which one will be like you will go for with the eye test, and 2 at-large bids. So they can still allow a 7-6 Alabama team because they love Alabama so much.
I know if our classic Fine Bomb of the show, Robert Trevino, is on, he He might have some words for you, but good answers on those questions for y'all. And to the crowd, thank you, as always, for the great questions. When we come back, top 10 plays, college football picks, weekend spread. You don't want to miss it. Hello, welcome back into the One and O Sports Show. And just another friendly reminder, whatever time it is when you're watching it, right now we're pre-recording on Thursday, it's 8:50. And what is it? OU still sucks. Got to remember that. Starting right now, we got What's Trending. And we're going to start with our thumbs up of the week. And that's going to go to Mr. John Daly. John Daly. Former PGA Tour player. Watch this one.
Apparently.
Legendary golfer.
Told him, yeah.
Oh! I
Hole in one.
my
Shoeless.
goodness.
Shoeless hole in one. That's pretty impressive.
John Daly just made a hole in one, and I got it on video.
Not much better than watching John Daly really do anything. John Daly. Pretty incredible. That guy. The fact that he's still hitting hole-in-ones, pretty impressive for him. All right, our thumbs down. This comes from Army and Abilene Christian. LJ McConnell around the edge. Thought he had enough. Watch this. He's going to put up the peace sign. Oh, LJ.
Oh.
LJ.
Oh,
What did they teach? I mean, I learned that in Pee Wee football.
There he goes.
In Austin, we call that a Saturday.
Right.
I mean,
right.
I just want to bring this up. You see how the lack of runaway speed Texas had versus TCU? I think there were more than a couple of plays where you see like a clear path that some Longhorn has, and somehow they get caught up by a TCU player and they get tackled.
Here's the deal, though. If he doesn't put up that peace sign, it's not a big deal. It's actually a pretty good play on his part because it's like a 40-yard run on an end around. Instead, he thinks he didn't even look back. He just had all this confidence. He thought he was gone. I mean, come on. Like I said, I learned that in Pee Wee football. You cross the goal line, you give the ball to the ref.
Yeah.
Size.
Yeah.
Next
Yeah.
time, put up a
Abilene
hook 'em
Christian.
and maybe they'll work.
It's just embarrassing. I mean, it's like when Alan Bowman did the horns down, and then all the memes made about that. It's unfortunate. Now he's going to be clowned for it for forever. He's never going to live that down. So.
Yeah, rough moment. Now up next, this is a first. We've had top 3 plays. We've never had top 10. So let's go ahead and look at the top 10 plays from this past week. Coming in at number 10, Tyrann Mathieu. Honey Badger getting the tip and into the end zone on the pick 6. Number 9, watch this play. Fakes out the cameraman, Amari Cooper into the end zone for the Cowboy touchdown, even though the Cowboys go on to lose. Number 8, Dalvin Cook. Watch this 1, 2, 3 tackles. Why don't you make it 4? Tack on a touchdown cherry on top. Pretty good run there for Cook. Number 7, Giants, Rams. Jalen Ramsey playing like a Ram. Watch this. Takes Golden Tate off his feet. Form tackle, too. That's completely clean, leading with the shoulder. Good play there. Number 6, Kadarius Toney. 5 Gamecock defenders can't bring him down the speedster. 57 yards on the touchdown. Florida looking pretty good right now. Number 5, Bills, Raiders, Josh Allen, and Stephon Diggs with the Moss. What a play there from Diggs. Number 4, Chargers, Justin Herbert to Keenan Allen. Let's take another look. Did he get the feet down? Allen goes up, goes 1, 2. Perfect catch there on the sideline. Number 3, Lakers Heat. Rondo alley-oop up there to Anthony Davis. Reverse slam. That's how you write it down. Number 2, talk about this, a rookie, Brandon Ayuk. And Ayuk going to get Ayup with the hurdle into the end zone. rookie out of Arizona State. And number one, pretty hard to top that last play. Watch this, Tatis Jr. trying to go up against the Dodgers, but Cody Bellinger at the wall. Talk about robbery. Incredible play there from Bellinger. Pretty crazy plays all around, guys. Do you think we got it right? What do y'all think was your top play?
Terrible. How can you not include any CPPL plays?
CPPL
How is it a top 10 play without CPPL plays? How was that not consulted in this committee? It's just like the college football committee. It's so close, and it's just the SEC and everybody else. It's just American sports and everybody else. No, obviously you didn't get it right.
Oh, Emmy, what did you think about this?
We're about to get in another rant. No, I have to say, I know I'm a little biased, but that IU play had me on my feet. I loved it. They even showed footage of him practicing that same move in practice. I don't know. It just is so exciting. I love seeing plays like that. The pure athleticism and reaction time is just really impressive. And of course, the Bellinger stealing that homer, that was incredible. 92 feet, stretched his arm about 4 feet, caught that ball. It was a robbery. Rip them. Honestly, that is so upsetting for them. But for us and for 1-0 Sports, it made for a great top 10 play.
It did. And Dan, you brought up the College Football Playoff Committee. We're going to get to be our own little College Football Playoff Committee real quick. We're going to get to our College Football Playoff top 4 predictions coming into week 5. Daniel, we'll start with your top 4. Who do you have in as of right now?
Wait, let me just check my notes real quick. Number 1, Clemson. They're Clemson. And then number 2, I really hate putting 3 SEC teams already this early in the season, even though it's kind of inevitable, knowing how the College Football Playoff Committee works. So before we had to put 3 SEC teams in the top 4, I'm just going to go with an ACC team and bring up the U because A-Rod loves the U and I love A-Rod, so bring up the U. And right now, they're playing Clemson. If they beat Clemson, how can they not be a playoff team barring any other terrible losses? So yeah, Miami goes number 2. Georgia, after an impressive beat down against Auburn last week, I think they're deservedly in top 4. And number 4, we all know Alabama's gonna be in here somewhere or the other. So might as well just accept that reality, and I'm just gonna put Alabama at number 4.
So 2 SEC teams, 2 ACC teams. Could be some craziness if that happens. Emmy, who do you have in your top 4?
Once again, sticking with my theme of the show, kind of going for the obvious pick. But right now, I have Clemson at number 1. I feel like that's a lock-in pick. Of course, knowing the college football playoffs, it's always going to be Clemson. And at number 2, I have Bama. Those are just obvious ones. You know that before the season even starts, they will probably be in the college football playoffs. Then I have Florida. Florida's looking amazing. I do think it may be tough to have 3 SEC teams, and much to my disappointment, it could be 3 SEC teams in the college football playoffs. But yeah, I have Florida at number 3, and at number 4, I have Georgia, the Bulldogs, looking solid. Once again, as they always do, their defense is always incredibly impressive. So those are my top 4 picks.
Yeah, I bet director Robert Trevino is beaming ear to ear to see 3 SEC teams in your top 4. For me, again, like y'all said, the top 2 teams pretty much going to be Alabama and Clemson. I have Alabama number 1 just because I feel like so far I've seen a little bit more from them. That road win, or the home win, I should say, against A&M, a ranked team, pretty impressive. But that 1 and 2 spot, they're just going to be there. Both these teams feel like they're head and shoulders above everybody else. Emmy, I agree with you. Florida looking really good right now. They're going to have to fix some issues defensively, but on the offensive side of the ball, they're playing incredible. Kind of feels like that LSU team we saw last year where they're just lighting things up offensively. And then 4th, again, we know the curse of my 4th spot. But so far, we had UNC there, who's still undefeated, even though they've had some close calls. Florida was there. Now we're going to put Oklahoma State there. I do think, Emmy, I agree with you. If I was going with the top 4 teams right now, Georgia has to be in that 4 spot. But if I'm looking at realistically down the road, I think Oklahoma State is a team that has a chance to go undefeated through the Big 12 and make it to the college football playoff. They aren't as bad as I think people thought after that Tulsa loss. Tulsa actually just upset UCF last week. So Tulsa better than they look. And Oklahoma State 3-0 has been without Spencer Sanders for basically 2.5 of those games. Once Sanders is back, the defense looks really good. This is a team that could be competing for that last spot.
Interesting take. Pretty ambitious.
Well, RIP Oklahoma State is all I'm going to say.
RIP, yes. That 4 spot is always, I got to go ambitious. I had to go different. But yes, RIP Oklahoma State. I honestly, I was talking with some people beforehand, and I was like, what team can I curse by putting them there? I kind of thought about putting Oklahoma there before the week, but I thought that was maybe too much of a stretch to put a 1 and 2.
Yeah.
There.
It's almost a stretch to put a Big 12 team in the college football playoffs at all. But, I mean, I love representation in any form for the Big 12, so sure.
Yeah. At this point, I mean, Big 12 has been absolute chaos. Speaking of chaos, we have a crazy weekend ahead of us in college football. Plus, we're also picking NBA Finals, NFL games. So you're going to want to stick around and see who we think is going to win. For the last time on your Friday morning, welcome back into the 1-0 Sports Show. One more time, guys. It's whatever o'clock you're at, and OU still sucks. Let's get into our weekend spread predictions.
By the way, before we start, sorry about that.
Daniel.
Cheeky move, not putting your picks in the script, keeping it down low. I like it.
I got to find a way to fudge what I've done so far. Actually, we can take a look at who has the best record so far. I think I actually have the best record right now. I'm at 9-9-1. Actually, Jake has the best record. He's 6-3. But Daniel, you went 5-5 last week. We'll see if you can get past 500 this week.
Just like LeBron.
Just like LeBron. There we go. Speaking of LeBron, our first game is Lakers on Friday night. They're looking to close out the Heat. 7-point favorites. Emmy, we'll start with you. Who do you have?
I have the Lakers. I mean, they have so much motivation to get this done. They have one more to win. I would, surprisingly, with all my LeBron support, would love to see the Heat win another one to prove that they can, to prove that they are capable of doing so. And I do root for Jimmy Butler and Tyler Hero just as much as anybody. I think they're really interesting players to watch. However, I don't think they can. I think them winning that one game was lucky. And I don't know if they can do it again. I mean, I would like to see it to make it more interesting. But either way, I don't know if it's going to do much in the long run.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the Lakers are going to win this game, but I'm not quite sure if they cover, so I will go Heat +7.
Ooh.
Daniel, what do you got?
I got the Heat, but I think the more importantly, does LeBron stay on the court and before the game ends? If they don't cover, I think that's the big question.
I should have looked up the betting odds for that. All right, let's go to the college football landscape. First game, Louisiana Tech, 14-point favorites against UTEP. Daniel, we'll start with you. Who do you have?
Well, one team had played Texas, one team hadn't, and I think that is such a huge advantage going into any game. So UTEP, I can't even see that with a straight face. UTEP, getting my pick for this one.
I'm going to agree with you there. I think UTEP has looked pretty good outside of the Texas game. I mean, that's their one loss on the season. I'm not saying they win, but I think they give Louisiana Tech a little bit of a scare. Emmy, what do you think?
I gotta say Louisiana Tech. I don't know. They are always a much better team than anyone gives them credit for. They are capable of beating UTEP, of course. I don't think the comparison of them facing the Longhorns is much of a feat. Seeing the horns right now, but yeah, I'd say Louisiana Tech. I think that's a safe bet.
Up next, we have TCU hosting Kansas State. TCU 8.5-point favorites, fresh off the upset win against Texas. So, Emmy, we'll go back to you. Who do you have?
I have TCU for this one. Their quarterback, Max Duggan, looked really good against Texas. I think they're getting their chemistry back. I do think it is kind of a rebuild year for TCU, but I don't count them out yet. They looked really good once again against Texas. And their offense, especially, I was pretty impressed with them. So I think I would like to see Kansas State kind of lose a little bit of their stride, especially since they've been kind of dominant for a little bit. So I would like to see someone upset them. So I'll say TCU.
Not so fast. First, not so fast of the day. Look, with any Big 12 game this year, I just think every game is going to be really close. And especially in this matchup, I don't see I don't see either of these teams getting a blowout win. I still think TCU has a good chance of winning it, but 8.5 points is just too much for me to give them. Daniel, what do you have?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think TCU has the same problem as Texas in terms of whoever they play, especially in the last 2 years, whoever they play, they manage to keep it close. They lose it close, besides like against a huge like Oklahoma kind of a team. But like they lose it close and they win it close. And I think they will. Even though TCU is at home this week, I think versus I think a very competitive K-State team, I think it'll be closer than 8.5 points. So I'm picking Kansas State on this one.
Let's head to the SEC next. Number 4, Florida, 6.5 point favorites as they travel. Unfortunately, it's always unfortunate when you travel to College Station. They're facing the number 21 Texas A&M Aggies, fresh off the loss to Alabama. Daniel, who do you have in this?
Do I really have to? I mean, I just need to do this, right?
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Florida.
Same thing for me. Same thing for me. Florida wins this big. Emmy?
Yeah. I mean, are you kidding? It's A&M. Do you even have to ask? Definitely Florida.
Daniel, that was good. I'm glad we didn't even have to say many words about A&M. Going back to the Big 12, number 24 Iowa State. They just beat Oklahoma last week. Now they're 12.5 point favorites at home, hosting Texas Tech. Emmy, can the Red Raiders play spoiler?
Oh, that's a good question. I think the Texas Tech will put it away. I do. I think they look like they're a well put together team. I think Alan Bowman is pretty dynamic as a quarterback, and I don't think he gets enough credit in the Big 12 for how talented and athletic of a quarterback that he is. I would like to see him get more attention, and I'd also like to see them secure a win.
I'm having trouble picking this one because I do think Iowa State's going to win. I don't know if Tech can keep it close. Here's what I will say. I'm not sure if Alan Bowman's going to be healthy. I know he was banged up. Because of that, I think Iowa State keeps riding the high from last week. I'm going to go Iowa State to cover. Daniel?
Well, Tech played Texas, and Iowa State hasn't played Texas. That's a huge advantage. I still can't say that with a straight face. But since both of y'all picked the Cyclones, I'm just gonna go on the limb and say that Tech doesn't pull an upset, but they will somehow, some way keep it close.
Yeah, I did originally say Iowa. I kind of switched it up at the last minute. I mean, you got to look at Iowa State's coaching staff. We'll see. Honestly, I'm kind of back and forth, as you can tell. The Big 12 is always such a parity. So sometimes I go one, sometimes I go the other. It's really hard to make up your mind in this conference.
It is, because it feels like the teams can't make up their minds either.
Yeah.
Let's go to the ACC. My old number 4 spot, UNC, the Fighting Mac Browns, 5-point favorites. They host number 19, Virginia Tech. Emmy, who do you have?
I have Carolina. This is for you, Thomas. I would like to see an upset. But yeah, I think I root for Carolina.
Good pick. I'm not picking against Mac Brown yet. Daniel?
In Mac Brown, we trust. It's UNC.
There we go. What was that? IMWT. In Mac Brown, we trust.
There we go. Get it on a T-shirt.
Wow.
Exactly. Put it on a T-shirt. Put him on a dollar sign. On a dollar bill. On the dollar bill. Up next, number 3, Georgia, 12.5 point favorites, hosting number 14, Tennessee Vols. Daniel, who are you picking in this one?
I picked Georgia. I think they had a huge win versus Auburn last week, and I don't think Tennessee is better than Auburn. Now Georgia does have to go on a road again and play Tennessee, but I expect a Georgia team to go into Tennessee, dominate, and keep themselves in the top 4.
It's a good pick, because y'all know who the most overrated team in the top 25 is?
Texas.
Okay. I don't know why I set myself up for that one. We're going to go with the fake UT, Tennessee Volunteers.
Wow.
I'm telling y'all, the way that the teams they play, I believe it's Arkansas and South Carolina, I don't care. I don't care that they're undefeated. Georgia's going to go in. They just beat Auburn handedly. Now they're hosting Tennessee. They're winning this game, not just 12.5. They're winning this game by more than 20. Tennessee's going to follow the rankings. They're not going to be ranked again. That's my prediction. Emmy?
Wow, that's a strong prediction. I don't know I'm going to follow that. But thank you, T. You really hit them where it hurts. Yeah, I would say the only reason I would root for Tennessee is the amount of pride they have in that winning streak. I think it's doing a lot for the community and the school. But other than that, I have 100% have Georgia. I even had them in the top 4 for the CFP. So obviously I'm picking them to win this game.
All right, moving to our college game day game. Miami's 3rd game day of the season. That's pretty crazy. They've had 3 of the 5 game days. But it makes sense because they're playing number 1 Clemson, who's a 14-point favorite. Emmy, any chance Miami can play spoiler?
I would love to throw up that U, but I can't. I say Clemson just because of Trevor Lawrence. I root for him. I really do. Much to some people do not like him as a quarterback, but I think he's such an interesting player to watch, and he is a Heisman candidate. So I do think I favor them to win this game. They have great chemistry as a team. I don't think Miami can do it. But, I mean, I would love to be proven wrong. I guess we'll have to see.
Not so fast. I do think Clemson wins this game, but maybe this is just me thinking that Clemson's a little bit overrated every year. But I think they're a little bit overrated this year, and I think Miami's a little bit underrated this year. And while I don't think they win, I think it's going to be a real close game there in Clemson on Saturday night. Daniel?
Give me the U. Wait, U.
There you go.
Damn it, do that right. I have Miami at number 2, and I put them at number 2 only to make it a little bit more sweeter when they get that number 1 spot. So give me the U. Give me A-Rod and give me the U.
There you go. All right, this one is the big one. Chandler early on the show, he already picked Texas to win, but we're going to hear from y'all. Number 22, Texas, against OU. OU is the 2.5-point favorite. Game's in Dallas. Daniel, who you got?
It's hard. I mean, it's a 25. No kidding.
2.5.
Yeah, the graphic. The dot isn't. That's
25.
How can I go against my alma mater? But that's what I'm doing. OU. I pick OU to win this one. Listen, I got to tell you, the Rakuten Monkeys blow a 7-game lead. The Texas Longhorns blows the TCU win. The Yankees looks like they're going to get eliminated. So every team I supported this year are losing. I'm going with OU this week.
Oh, my goodness. I appreciate the effort and thought to think about the fact that maybe you're counter-jinxing OU, but I don't care. It's OU hate week. It's 9:15 here, and OU sucks. Texas wins this one big. Emmy?
Big. Okay, sure. I would love Texas to win this one big. I think we need to. I think we are all a little bit disappointed by their performance thus far. I feel like Ehlinger performs super well under pressure. We got to get him into a scenario where he has it's now or never, for him to perform. I really hope our defense is up for it. But yes, I have Texas. Obviously, OU sucks. And no matter what, I am a little concerned about them going into this game with a few losses under their belt because I'm worried that they're going to be super angry, as we all are. But of course, Texas. I can't go against the Horns.
I'm hoping I'm not eating my words. If any OU fans see this, I hope I don't have to eat those words Saturday afternoon. All right, our Sunday night football game, Seahawks, 7-point favorites, hosting the Vikings. Emmy, who you got?
I'm going to have to say the Seahawks. I think Russell Wilson has this thing where he can call his own plays to get them better starts in games. I think he's one of the most fantastic players in the pocket he's just so good and he has such great pocket awareness. I think his talent coupled with the force and the dominance that is the Seahawks, I do agree with the 7 points favorites over the Vikings.
That's a good pick. Russell Wilson, on his MVP track so far this year. Plus, you add the fact that Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf are really stepping up and becoming premier wide receivers. Vikings, I just don't think they have enough to slow down the Seahawks? Daniel?
Well, I've made my share of dumb picks this week, so I'm gonna stay logical, reasonable for this one. I think Russell Wilson will get this one done for the Seahawks, so I'm gonna go with Seattle.
All right. Well, we'll certainly have to see what happens this weekend. That's all we have for you today. One more time, though. Let's see if we can get everybody saying it together. It's 9:17.
9:17 and
you
sucks.
suck.
Anyways, thanks so much for joining us on your Friday morning. Make sure to check out our sister shows, College Press Box, Tuesday nights at 6:30, College Crossfire, Wednesday nights at 9:30. And for everybody in studio, that's Robert Trevino. For Emmy Basnett, Daniel Shee, I'm Thomas Fitch. Have a good Friday morning.